Hey, 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 Facebook. Giving y'all a moment to join me. It says it's building my audience. And while my audience is being built, I'm going to go ahead and share this to my group. So let me give it a second to do that. Do I have live? Great. We're going to go ahead and share in a group. What's my group? There we go. And bam. All right, y'all. It's been a week since I've been here, so I'm super excited to be back. One quick thing, as I know folks are hopping on here, something that you guys should know about me is that I've been doing this a while, both as a coach and also as a principal. And so one thing I know about myself is that when I'm on and I'm delivering content and I am really serving, I also need to take some time off to recuperate. So I had a powerful, jam-packed week of Get Real, Get Clear, and Get Intentional for 2017 that I did in my private group, and I want to take a week off before I jump back in for my next series, which is all about confidence. So I see some people are joining us. Hey, Alexia, good to see you. And I know some people are joining me from my group, Soul Tribe for Leaders, so I'm going to hop right in it. Just another quick personal thing is that I've decided I'm going to stop apologizing. Like when I jumped on here, I'm like, oh, I need to apologize that my lighting is bad. I need to apologize that, but forget it. We're just going to be real. Hi, everybody. Welcome. I am Aaliyah Mims, and I'm an educational leadership coach. And what that means is that I help educators, both teachers, administrators, and the like, level up in their business. So I help them to grow their careers, whether it's attaining that next level on a campus or in an educational network. I also help new leaders to be able to identify what their passions and purposes are so they can continue to serve others. And then the third thing that I help people with is how do they monetize their talents, both as educators, community leaders, small business owners. And so that's kind of the work that I do. And all of that's under the umbrella of being clear about your passion, your purpose, and also giving yourself permission to really level up in your position. So if you are new to me, welcome. I'm so excited to see you here. A quick little tidbit about myself before I jump into our content is that I'm a 17-year educator, and I've had a variety of roles from being a teacher to being a consultant to being an instructional coach, and now I've been fortunate enough to be a principal for the last 4 years in counting. And so what I do is not just what I do out of a passion and what I'm uniquely talented for, it's also what I do as a profession as well. So I like to think that I know a little bit of something about not only what does it take professionally to be a leader, but also all of the soul work that goes into being a leader. And I realize that becoming a leader is not just about having the skills or having the degree or having the resume. A lot of what leadership is truly a mindset issue, and it's mindset work, and it's also soul work. So that's what we're going to jump in today. So I see Alexia on. Thank you so much for joining. And I see that there's other people on. So if you're watching this live, go ahead and give me a shout out so I know that you're here. And if you're watching this on the replay, please chime in, because I definitely come back and comment and respond to your questions. So when I decided to do this series, the Confidence Code, this week, it really came out of a couple of different places. It came out of my own experiences being a leader and realizing that I was tasked to have this campus. Hey, Tina, good to see you here. I was tasked to have this campus, and obviously I got the job, and I had 500 students under me, and I had this staff, and I felt like, oh my God, are they sure that I'm the right person for this job, even though I've obviously been vetted? And I had the opportunity to speak with a friend of mine, my best friend, who has a new position, and hearing some of her, some of the things that she's going through. And then finally, I've been part of entrepreneur groups. And what's interesting throughout my experiences and also all of the people that I work with and people that I'm in contact with is that it's this common thread that Yes, they have these talents. Yes, they are showing up in these particular positions with titles, etc., but constantly feel like they're not good enough. Like, even though that people are telling them, oh, you're so talented, they don't feel good enough. Even though clearly they have the title, they don't feel good enough. And what I also know is that not feeling good enough causes us to sabotage in a variety of ways. So my quick story, and I'm going to go through what each of those are: the imposter syndrome, survivor's guilt, which is a very real thing, and then judgment. And so my story, like I share really briefly, is that, and I've shared this before, so if you guys have heard the story, you guys just bear with me, is that not only professionally did I feel really insecure about the role that I was playing as a principal when I first became a principal 4 years ago, but even as a first-time business owner a little over a year ago. When I officially had my LLC and I was really a business. No, it was about 2 years ago, excuse me. I realized I used to, feel not good enough. Like, nobody's going to pay me to coach them. They can Google all of this information. Who do I think I am? Why am I at this school? Why am I at this school that has all of these awards? And, the students are excellent and the families are excellent. Why am I tasked to be here, and am I going to be good enough? And what was interesting was that even though I had all of these people telling me that, that I'm the right person for the job, I didn't feel it, and it showed up in a variety of ways. It showed up with me wanting to stay in my office all of the time because I didn't know what I had to offer. It showed up with me having to micromanage the process because in a way I had to prove to myself that I knew the role. And so I was doing everybody else's job except for them doing their job. It showed up with me having high anxiety about things that truly didn't matter. Like, I remember my first year being a principal and feeling stressed out because my inbox wasn't down to zero, and worried that everybody and their mother was judging me. And so as a result of me thinking that I was being judged, I would, avoid people. And, hey, Jessica, good to see you here. And all of these things became self-fulfilling prophecies. The more that you avoid wanting to feel bad, the more you create conditions where, one, the lessons come up for you, and two, you create madness and busyness in your life so that more of that thing that you're trying to avoid shows up. So that's just a quick thing about me. So I'm going to go through really quickly about what each of those points are. What are imposter syndrome? What is survivor's guilt? How do you know you're judging yourself? And because my purpose of tonight is simply for you to identify where you are, and then as we go throughout the rest of the week, so I'll be here every night, and Thursday night will be the last night, I'm going to be giving you tools and strategies to be able to deal with what you're seeing. So first, I'm going to start off with imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome is something that is strongly afflicts women more than men. Imposter syndrome afflicts women. I'm going to tell you guys about why. So imposter syndrome refers to the idea that you feel that you are not good enough, qualified, skilled, that you're not the best person for a job or for the role that you're in. And so as a result, you had this feeling that you're not good enough, and you're worried about being found out. Have you guys ever felt that way? Like, oh my God, when they find out that I really can't do X, Y, Z, or when they find out that I'm not as good as they think I am, or when they find out this thing about me, then I'm going to be fired, embarrassed, humiliated, let go, all of these different things. Has anybody besides me ever felt that way? And even if you're not chiming in right now, with my number one, so if you guys are new, I always like to give you numbers and give you ways to shout out. So if you've ever felt imposter syndrome and that feels like, yeah, I've had that sometime feeling, thank you, Tina, for being my note taker. Give me a number one. And the interesting thing about imposter syndrome is not only is it that feeling of not feeling good enough, it really consumes our mindset. We constantly walk around waiting for the other shoe to drop. We worry that this is going to be the day where I'm going to be exposed. And being exposed as women is like our biggest fear. I think that's why when we look, especially in middle schools, why girl drama, so to speak, is so strong, is because girls aren't always physical in their confrontation. Their biggest ways that they confront each other is by exposing. So that social media, and all of this carries on into our adult life, that we don't want to be found out. Found out is not whatever enough is, and that carries on to our lives as as adults. And what's interesting, and this is why I'm speaking to women in particular, because men don't always have that same sense of imposter syndrome. A lot of times men are quite confident in faking it till they make it. They're quite confident in having inflated senses of self. And women, we tend to downplay, even if, you're Ariana Huffington or you're Hillary Clinton. I'm just throwing out names. I'm not saying they have imposter syndrome. Even if you're these people with these great accolades, still people even in those positions still think that they're not good enough, even when that doesn't quite match their receipts. And so when I say matching the receipts, even when you have evidence of saying, obviously you're good enough, you have the degree, or you've had these accomplishments, or you've had these things, you have people that love you, you have people that surround you, you're serving and you're doing, you still feel not good enough, and it ends up becoming, we end up self-sabotaging. So that's one, that's one kind of category of the things that work against our confidence, is that imposter syndrome. And then I'm going to give you a quick homework assignment for that right now. If you feel like you are an imposter, this is one thing that I definitely challenge my clients to do, and I challenge you to do as well. I want you to literally write down what are the things that you have accomplished. And when I say accomplishments, I want to be very careful that we're not limiting accomplishments just to education or just to money. I want you to think about what are the ways that you have served others in your talents. What are the ways that you've served others in your love? So an accomplishment can simply be the fact that, against all odds, you've done X, Y, Z. That's what I want you to fill in that blank for, that first number, that number one. And that's going to look very different for every single person. For some people, against all odds, I survived when I grew up in this, this impoverished background. For some other people, against all odds, I have gone to pursue this career where my family said that I should be X, Y, Z. Some people might say, against all odds, I ended up in this community when my life script and my life trajectory was going this way. So for the first thing I want you to do is to really create your own receipts, create your own list of what are the things that you have done against all odds. And I would venture to say that when you start to really push yourself to do that assignment, you will see that, damn, I kind of am badass, even if I don't give myself credit for it. I have done a lot. I am a lot to a lot of people. These are the people that care about me. These are the ways that I show up, and it's not this small thing. And what I want you to do when you make that list is not to say, yeah, but so-and-so has that too. We're going to get to that in point number 3 when we talk about judgment. So regardless of who you compare yourself to, against all odds, I have, and then I want you guys to complete that statement. So that's imposter syndrome. And that's the number one way that we have confidence issues. The second thing is one that is near and dear to my heart: survivor's guilt. So survivor's guilt refers to that idea that for some of us who have made it out of whatever the circumstances are that we grew up with, we feel really, really guilty. And as a result of feeling guilty, we have fake humility. And what I mean by fake humility is that we don't want to brag on ourselves because we don't want people to think that we're all that. So let me tell you about my survivor's guilt. For those of you guys that are new to me or you're watching this on a replay, I've shared before that I was lucky enough to grow up in a low-income community, and I was lucky enough to have parents that had chemical addiction issues in the 80s. I'm a 70s baby, and I grew up in the 80s in California during the crack epidemic. So if you've seen Boys in the Hood, if you've seen Straight Outta Compton, if you've seen Dangerous Minds, you've seen my story. And it was challenging for all kinds of reasons. Obviously, having parents who are drug addicted is never easy, and they have to make a lot of difficult decisions, both because of their finances and also because of just their own mindset issues. And as a result, there are many, many times where utilities were cut off. Either water was cut off or electricity was cut off. And I remember one time in particular when both were cut off. And at the same time, I went to private schools growing up. So I had this very odd upbringing where I definitely was living, a very challenging home life, but at the same time I had this excellent education thanks to financial aid and thanks to a very supportive external, beyond my immediate family, my aunts and uncles and grandparents and all of those folks were in my community as well. So I was supported even if I didn't have everything that I needed, or even though I was dealing with all of this other angst growing up. And so, long story short, went on to Ivy League university for undergrad, continued for grad school, had excellent jobs, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, had all of these accomplishments and rewards. And I used to feel really guilty about it. I felt guilty because who did I think I was that I was able to, have discretionary income where other people, including my siblings, were struggling financially? Who did I think I was that I was going to Egypt and going on these trips where people back at home were literally trying to survive, not even paycheck to paycheck, but sometimes day to day? Who did I think I was that I had this title and these letters after my name when other people that I grew up with were, still having those pipe dreams about one day I want to finish college? And what was interesting about the survivor's guilt was that I wasn't always conscious of it. I wasn't conscious that, of the who did I think I was, but I found myself downplaying my accomplishments a lot. So I can be in a group of people, whether they're my peers or people from home, and they're like, oh, what do you do? Oh, I'm in education, and leave it at that. I'm not about to start saying, actually, I'm a principal of a nationally recognized school and blah, 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 blah. And I didn't want to tell people that. Or when I went home and, I never really brought my best items home because I didn't want people to think that I thought that I was all of that. Or when people would say, oh, you have a nice so-and-so, so-and-so, and I'm just talking about material things. I'm giving you this example. I would downplay it. Yeah, I have a nice car, but let me tell you about how bad this other thing in my life. And so I was always hypercritical of myself. And I did that not one, because I was critical of myself, and also I did that because I almost was trying to beat other people at seeing my flaws. So I was always the first person that was going to highlight my flaws before anybody else did, because again, I didn't want to be seen as I think I'm all that. And there's a whole lot of other stuff that went through it that led to that as well. Long story short, the black girls in high school, there were very few of us. And so as there started to be some divergence between us, just all different kinds of reasons, then I felt ostracized in a way because I was, taking honors classes and all of these kinds of things. And so that survivor's guilt was really, really strong. I mean, I felt really guilty. And I remember when I first became a teacher and had made it, so to speak, I'm buying gifts for my brothers and sisters because I thought that they needed XYZ, because I wanted to make up somehow for the fact that I had something that they didn't have. And so the weird thing about survivor's guilt is that not only it sabotages us in a couple of ways. It sabotages us because we start to create this reel in our minds, a movie reel. Oh, y'all, I'm showing my age because people nowadays don't know about what movie reels are, huh? Okay, so history lesson. A movie reel is a film that's set on a wheel, and it used to literally, the film used to go from one wheel to the next. And so when I talk about having a reel in my head, I used to have this script or this running soundtrack in my head of all of my flaws. And it was so much easier for me to keep track of what my flaws were, again, because I was trying to kind of beat people to the punch. But what ended up happening is, if you keep this loop in your mind of all of the ways that you're not good enough, or you don't deserve, or you're going to be found out, what you end up doing is reinforcing those beliefs in your head. And I truly believe that we become exactly what we think. And so if you're constantly thinking of these negative things, then you start to acclimate to becoming those negative things. Also, having survivor's guilt keeps you really limited and not experiencing the fullness of life, because you still want to be seen as one of the homies, one of the crew, one of the whoever. And so you start to limit your friend group because you don't want to, start to associate with those people, because what you used to say or what you think that your friends might used to say about those kinds of people. So you start limiting your circle, which is super dangerous. Like, we should always be growing, and part of growing means our circle changes as well. Or you start limiting the experiences you have because you think that that's out of your league. You think that, oh, I can't go to the museum, just throwing these things out as example. I can't go to this trip. I can't go and have these experiences because that's not me. When in reality, that is you, and you just are feeling guilty about that now being you. So, that's survivor's guilt. And so one of the things that my homework number 2, so Tina, I'm so appreciative of you of you taking notes for me. So here's my homework number 2 for you guys that I really want you to think about is, what are the ways that you remind other people of your flaws? What are the ways that survivor's guilt shows up in you? Are you telling people about your flaws? Are you limiting the people that you're around? Are you limiting your experiences because you don't want to be seen as too good? And has anybody else ever dealt with survivor's guilt? So if that's you, if you've dealt with survivor's guilt, are you realizing as you're listening, like, dang, that might be me? I want you just to do some introspection as you're taking some notes. I want you to take a star and think, wow, survivor's guilt, what is really what's going on that's keeping me limited? Now, I recognize that many of us may not have grown up in the same circumstances as I have, but I do want to push you to think about what are the ways that you kind of expanded beyond what was typical for your circle, for your upbringing, from the people that you grew up with or from the people that you used to associate with, and then how are you still trying to hang on to that because you're afraid of them not taking you seriously, or you're afraid of what they might say. I really push you to do that. And here's the third one. So y'all, I'm not going to keep you on super long, but here's a third way that our confidence is hindered, and the way that we hold back ourselves feeling good and feeling confident about the work that we do. And it's around judgment. Judgment is, oh my God, it's become like my theme right now. So, when I talk about judgment, it's really coming from this idea of forgiveness. And so disclaimer, this is not my invention. None of these terms are things that I've invented, but these are things that I'm starting to pull together, that I have pulled together for my clients, but also how I've pulled together with the people that I work with, and also some of the work that I've done for myself. And so I was reading this book. What is the book that I'm reading right now? Oh my gosh, I completely went blank. I'll come back and I'll drop it in the comments. Oh, I know what I was thinking. Is this the book? Anyway, sorry y'all. Because I'm stuck between 2 books. It's either The New Psycho-Cybernetics or it's A Course in Miracles. 2 completely different books, but these are the 2 that I've been reading most often recently. And so anyway, it talks about the idea of about forgiveness. And forgiveness for personal reasons is a whole other thing that I'm working on right now. And it talks about, in order for you to forgive someone, you have to have first judged them. And when you judge, it's because you are equating who a person is with their behavior. So those are the 3 parts of forgiveness. In order to forgive, you had to have first judged, and what you're judging is how behavior is equated to who the person is. And so it talks about, I think this is in The New Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz. It talks about when you learn to forgive, when you truly therapeutically forgive, is when it's the moment that you realize that there's nothing for you to condemn and to judge in that person. Yes, people have behaviors, and yes, people make mistakes, but that's not who they are at the core, and neither that's who you are. We're all childs of God. We're all children of God. And so that means that we're flawed and we're beautiful and we're perfect and we're all of those things. And yes, we have behaviors, but we can move beyond our behaviors. And when you start to separate the people from the behaviors, then you can learn to forgive, because you no longer condemn them for just who they are in that moment, or where they are on that growth, on their own journey. So what this has to do with confidence is, I think a lot of times we end up judging ourselves. We judge ourselves so harshly, and we judge ourselves actually, harsher than other people. We judge ourselves way harsher than we might judge sometimes even our worst enemy. And we judge ourselves more harshly than other people judge us. We condemn ourselves. We look at all of our past choices. We look at our behaviors. We look at our past decisions, and we have all this condemnation in our heart for, why did we do that? Why did I choose to be in a relationship with that person? Why did I choose to spend my money that way? Why did I choose to go here instead of there? Why did I choose to do all of these things? And we beat up ourselves and we berate ourselves so harshly for the choices and behaviors that we've had. So here's my thing I need to tell y'all. Those choices and those behaviors are precisely what you needed at that time in order to be in the place that you are now on your journey. It is not in vain. It is not for naught. And it's not because you are a horrible, evil person. It's simply that you are a human being and you needed to go through those experiences to learn particular lessons. You needed to go through those experiences either to make a new decision today, or you needed to go through those experiences in order to learn something new about yourself. You needed to go through those experiences so you can have a testimony for somebody else. You needed to go through those experiences so you can have somebody else come into your life. There's so many reasons why we go through different experiences, and none of them are because you are an inherently bad person. It just means that you are a human being on a human journey, and even venture to say you are a soul having a human journey. And so I talked about this back in my last series about, looking at our choices and behaviors non-emotionally, not coming from a place of judgment, but just saying, oh, this is what I did, this is what worked, this is what didn't work, and always giving yourself permission to make adjustments and permission to learn and grow. And the more that you give yourself permission to learn and see those things as just trials and error and tests and prototypes, then the less we judge ourselves. And the less that we judge ourselves, the less that we have to forgive ourselves. And so what I really want us to be thoughtful right now is as we're going through our confidence journey is to ask myself, am I not confident because I'm judging a past mistake? Am I not confident because I'm judging myself for a past behavior? Am I not judging myself because am I not forgiving myself and moving forward and feeling confident because I'm judging that I'm supposed to be here instead of there? Instead of realizing that where you are right now is perfectly positioned, is perfectly aligned, and it serves a purpose for who you are going to be, and it serves a purpose for who you are now. So that was just a mouthful. So that third homework is ask yourself, how are you condemning your choices? What purpose is that truly serving? What are other ways that we can look at the choices that we've made in a non-emotional way? How can we see our past choices as separate from who we are in our souls? And how can we see our past choices as tests, as trial and error, as prototypes, as practice, as necessary work to be to where we are now? So, today, just to do a quick recap, in order for you to be really clear about hey Tony, thank you for joining. You come in just in time for my recap. So in order for you to truly develop confidence, and when I say confidence, I'm talking about that soulful knowing that who you are and what you contribute to the world, one, is divinely inspired. It's perfect because you already are perfect, and that and having that confidence that you are chosen to do your work in this place and time, and that work has to come through you. So that's what confidence is. And a lot of times the things that block us from that confidence are those three things I just told you guys. One, it's having that imposter syndrome. Two, it's having that survivor's guilt of who do I think I am? Why am I the one to move beyond these circumstances that other people have? And let me point out my flaws before they do. And then three, judging yourself and condemning the decisions that you've made and the choices that you made because you're seeing your behaviors as you instead of choices that you had to go through to either learn, attract more people, develop more skills, figure out what didn't work. So that's what I have for you guys today in day one of the confidence code. Let's get real about what's holding us back. So before I hop off, two things. Did anybody get anything out of this tonight? I see I have a few viewers on. I see people are coming in and out. Has this been helpful for anybody tonight? And I would love to hear from you guys if this has been helpful. And I know I'm on a slight delay, so I'm filling up the dead space, which is me talking. And even if you don't want to share in particular that this has been helpful, Tony gave me the hands up, yes. If this has been helpful for you too. If this has been helpful for anybody else and you don't want to comment exactly, give me a number 3. Tell me that this is hitting the nail on the head for you and that you had an aha or oh, Tony, I got it on the head. And this is a short one today. I didn't keep y'all here for an hour. Give me a number 3 if this has been helpful for you and you've had an aha or you realize, dang, I didn't realize that this is really what's going on in my energy about why I'm not as confident as who I'm going to be. So watch the recap. I will be here all week until Thursday, 7:30. And before I hop off, questions. Do you guys have any questions for me? if I don't have any questions, and again, if you're watching this on a replay, you can still drop your questions. My special treat for you guys this week is that I will be putting a lot of processing questions, things to help you guys along this confidence journey in my private group. That's Aaliyah Mims Soul Tribe. So I think Tina, Tony, Valexia, you guys are already in there. And if you're not, please feel free to go join that group so you can get the extra homework that I'm giving you guys to continue to flesh out this confidence code. And I look forward to seeing you guys back here tomorrow night, 7:30. Love you guys.